So now we're going to introduce our next speaker, which is Gavin Raders. Gavin Raders is a co-founder and co-director of Planting Justice, a father to two amazing daughters, a social justice activist, and permaculture, a demonstrator and teacher. For the past 17 years, he has dedicated his life to people's movements for peace and social, economic, racial, and environmental justice. Prior to co-founding Planting Justice, Gavin studied the history, failures, and successes of social movements as a cultural anthropology student at UC Berkeley and organized a range of anti-war, anti-nuclear, environmental, and human rights issues both on and off campus. He has knocked on nearly 30,000 doors in California, New Mexico, Colorado, and Nevada as a community organizer with Peace Action West, and those experiences of speaking with thousands of people and walking city streets, knocking on doors, and taking in how land wasn't being used to meet community needs, sow the seeds for the founding of Planting Justice. Please welcome Gavin Raders. It's all yours, sir. I think he's on mute. Did someone take him off mute?
Great. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, Dr. Dwayne. And it's so great to hear you, Abigail. I'm so pleased to hear more about your organization. My name is Gavin Raders, and I'm a co-founder of Planting Justice, as Dwayne said. And I'm going to share my screen here. Planting Justice is now 16 years in on this journey. Back in 2009, myself and Haleh Zandi co-founded Planting Justice, really as a response to the impacts of militarization in our own communities here in Oakland, and what it means when we spend, more than half of our city budget on policing, a huge amount of our federal budget on war and war making, and what happens to those of us left behind in the city without basic access to, all the things that we need to lead healthy and productive lives. And myself and Haleh were volunteering at San Quentin State Prison back in 2009, and working with the Insight Garden program, this amazing program that was building gardens inside prisons, and hearing from people how it was having a really deep spiritual, emotional impact in their lives, and that they really wanted to do this work when coming home. But there was lots of programming for people inside prison at San Quentin, and very few programs that were creating full-time living wage jobs for people coming home. And so it really clicked for Haleh and I that our mission was to utilize our privileges, our access to resources to create jobs for folks doing nature-based work, working with plants, transforming physical space in their communities. Let's see how, okay, great. And so, we started by building gardens wherever we could. We've built over 600 gardens throughout Oakland in these past 16 years. And the experience of taking a lifeless asphalt or like some other land that isn't being used for anything, and transforming it into a brand new ecosystem with fruit, flowers, vegetables, herbs, chickens, compost, bees, that experience actually helps to transform somebody on the interior as they're transforming space on the exterior. And it helps us to realize that we don't have to accept the way that our systems have been designed for us, that we can actually transform our own physical conditions. And so that has led to a lot of work over the past 16 years. We now have a 4-acre farm, a 2-acre nursery. We're working inside at least 8 to 10 high schools a year, offering educational programming to Oakland high school students, many of whom have already had contact with law enforcement. And we're building out school gardens, teaching a food justice and social justice curriculum, and creating access to living wage jobs for youth and adults when they come home from incarceration, graduate from high school. And we're working inside places of incarceration as well, too, inside county jails, CDCR prisons, and building gardens and teaching people about this work before they're released, so that they have a name of an organization. They have a letter saying that they have employment waiting for them. And being able to welcome folks home with a full-time living wage job and a reentry program that provides wraparound support has proven enormously successful for our participants. In the past 16 years, we've had 90 participants who have been full-time living wage jobs who are formerly incarcerated people, and only 2 have gone back on a new charge, and that's in 16 years. So we're really demonstrating that, recidivism is by design. Like Abigail was talking about, when people come home, to what? To no home. People are coming out homeless without mental health supports, without community supports, without the ability to support themselves and their families. It's obvious that folks are going to be reincarcerated. It's just set up that way. And what we're demonstrating is that while recidivism is by design, so is its inverse. Freedom is also by design. And we can design spaces that cultivate that freedom for folks. And we know, like most of our staff members, we have more than 50 full-time staff. Almost everyone's a parent, and so this is not just about them. Like each person is their own universe. Each person who's formerly incarcerated, all of us, anyone in this, on this planet, carries a little universe around them. It's all the people who know them, who depend on them, who love them, who are impacted, and they too are incarcerated when a family member is incarcerated. And so having that that parent-child connection at our land, people really take so much pride in their work. I'm going to show you actually about 2 minutes of this video, because it's one thing for me to describe the transformative nature of this work, and it's another for you to see what our formerly incarcerated staff have done in the neighborhoods that they grow up in, that they're raising their children in, and transforming space into something that feeds the community and creates enormous amount of dignity and pride for our staff. I'm just going to show about 2 minutes. Y'all can hear?
We are here in Oakland, California, on our way to a revolutionary permaculture nursery, planting justice. We are in the heart of East Oakland.
This is my neighborhood. I come straight off the streets. I was selling dope 7, 8 years ago. A lady from my neighborhood grabbed me by my ear, literally, and dragged me down here. I didn't know it was even down here. Made me apply for this job and hired me on the spot. I've been here ever since. I ain't sold dope in years. This place has done a lot for me, man. It changed my life. If I wouldn't have been working here, I'd probably be dead or in jail.
I was in prison for 16 years. I got arrested a day after my 19th birthday, and I got out when I was 35. So basically, all my young years I spent in prison. When I was about to get out, I hear all these horror stories about people not giving employment to people who are formerly incarcerated, not many resources, people judging you for what you were in prison for.
Once you get out and then you go trying to find these jobs, and then, a lot of them don't even hire you once they get your background, and they just it's not going to work due to your background. And then if they do allow you to work, it's like people are, treating you differently and, treating you like you some type of animal or something, but not here.
In this environment, you're not a number, you're a person, which means that you get encouraged to be in leadership positions. You get encouraged to grow, to do different things, to introduce new things to the program, to the organization. And, and you have a lot of room to grow.
We all can relate. A lot of us are directly from this neighborhood, so we don't commute every morning. We 5 minutes away from home. And yeah, it's like a family. It's like my extended PJ family.
But what it feels like now is that I'm finally accepted in society. It's accepted in the community that I actually live in. Now we got.
Right. So I just really wanted to presence the voices of those staff members. That's Kovan, Otis, and Sol, primarily, that you heard there. Otis basically built that nursery with us. He talked about his stepmom grabbing him by his ear and taking him down to be like, you need to work here. That was when we were just starting. And I wish I had a photo. I mean, this was a bare, empty lot in one of the lowest income neighborhoods in our county and lowest income neighborhood in Oakland. really dead end street, a place actually Dwayne knows well. Dwayne grew up in Sabrani Park. It's a place, there's one way in, one way out, and a lot of people don't come there if you don't work there. And our staff love their community. They raise their children there. They don't want to leave. And being able to be working $25 an hour, $26 an hour full time, having all of your children covered with medical, dental, vision, yourself covered, and just really actually working alongside family and friends. Like all the people who are working at Planting Justice, most of them have like really deep connections with other people that they're working with. They're sometimes working next to their mother, to their father, to their brothers. They're working alongside family members. So it really is a family. And this is kind of a map of our different projects. There's a lot here, but the East Oakland Nursery and our aquaponics farm are in the same block on 105th Avenue. We're now starting a kitchen, a commercial kitchen, and a retail nursery and a gathering space for live music and community events called the Good Table. And then we have our mother farm where we grow out our nursery stock for the nursery. But really, what you were hearing there is it's an opportunity to be seen and to be treated as a whole person. And our staff in reentry, they're able to access things like for the first time, like professional therapy. We just pay for our staff members to have access to a professional personal therapist. It's something that most people need. Very few people have access to. It's like $200 an hour in the Bay Area. We help people get access to housing. There's mental health supports. We do a lot of groups that are led by Sol Mercado, the woman there who did 16 years. She's our reentry coordinator. And a lot of these folks developed enormous skill sets while incarcerated. And that's one of the things that a lot of people sometimes, are like, oh, wow, how sweet of you to offer jobs to formerly incarcerated people. And what I respond to them is the training that folks received while in prison, you can't get at Harvard. There's a type of self actualization that can happen for folks in prison when they're, sometimes people are leading circles, they're helping people heal, they're healing themselves too. And our staff have a lot of deep experience leading circles for incarcerated people while they were incarcerated. And, where else do people get that kind of training? So being able to come and offer that to Planting Justice, we're so blessed to have folks with that kind of experience who are here working alongside their friends and family. And when you're coming home from incarceration and you come to a place like this, that's like bursting with life, there's people laughing, having a good time. There's lots of youth coming through. It's a very vibrant space. And it's a space where they're, able to be a full person. Like we're not expecting people to come and just slap a smile on their face when they come to work. We're there to help people, and our reentry team, our peer coordinators are there to help people work through really challenging things. And the trauma doesn't end when incarceration ends. Our staff are constantly, their families, at risk of, violence, people losing their homes, all the things, illness and early death. Our staff describe Sabrani Park as a place where there's a slow genocide happening. It's very rare for Black men to even reach their like full life expectancy. And a lot of that comes to the environmental justice issues. We're right off Highway 880. It's a diesel corridor. There's all kinds of cancer and environmental related diseases. You can see Highway 880 right here. There's our nursery. I just have about 2.5 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly go through and tell you about our new project. This is an aquaponics farm that we're starting right down the street. You can see it's literally 100 feet from our nursery. And we've been here in this neighborhood, headquartered here for 10 years. And so the folks who built the nursery are still with us. Folks don't want to leave. They want to build their careers at Planting Justice. Many of them are now, here for 10 years or longer. And that kind of community leadership development has enabled us to then expand to this new 3-acre site with enormous strength. Like, we have the community leaders here already. We're going to be working with UC Davis to build a farm that's going to grow about 150,000 pounds of organic produce per year and create another dozen full-time living wage jobs. But what I'm really excited about this project is it's going to be a seed farm. We call it an incubator farm. So our task is to not only grow a lot of food and create more jobs for folks coming home, but it's to open source the technology, help people become landowners and access their own empty lots so that they can grow their own economic equity in their community. And so the goal here is to be a seed farm. Hopefully 10 years from now, there'll be 10 other aquaponics farms, not owned by Planting Justice, but owned by community residents who are part of a multi-site cooperative where we can all market our produce, sell produce together and eliminate the huge barriers around urban agriculture, business creation, around planning and zoning, certifications, organic certifications, and all these things that are so challenging for anyone to do, let alone for someone who's never started a business before, or maybe even had a full-time job before. So yeah, in my last minute, I'll just show you a few more of our sites. It's so important for people to be able to get out of Oakland and out of the city. And we have a site just 15 miles from downtown Oakland that feels like a world away. This is the place where we have about 1,500 fruit trees in the ground. It's an orchard. It's also an educational site. It's a site for our reentry team. And then we have other opportunities for folks who aren't called to farming and nursery work. We have an education program that's staffed by formerly incarcerated people that works inside the schools, and they serve as peer mentors. They're helping to show a different path for our young people. It's one thing for like somebody like myself with race and class and white skin privilege to come in to, Oakland high schools and be like, you should grow fruits and vegetables. And it's a whole nother thing when it's somebody who went to that school from that community, who's formerly incarcerated themselves, who's on their own healing journey and can speak from that place. And that's the kind of cultural change that we're seeing when folks are in leadership positions and they're on their own healing journeys and they're creating space for others to join them. And the last thing I'll say before I move to questions is, when you saw Otis there at the beginning speaking about, how this is life or death for him, that is true. And also people are noticing that the change can happen, not on a straight line, but over years of folks being on our staff. People are making enormous changes in their lives. They're changing the way they eat. They're changing the way they think, the way that they relate to each other, and their communities, their children, their families, and the other people around them are taking notice and wanting to be involved too. And so that's the kind of like slow kind of neighborhood-based cultural change that we're able to have. So I didn't get to everything, but I'll skip to the end if you want to find more information about Planting Justice. Our QR code is there. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thanks for that powerful presentation there, Gavin. Like Gavin said, I'm from Sobrani Park. Grew up literally about 300, not even 300 yards from the farm, and I know the individuals that were highlighted in the YouTube video. These people I grew up with, and I met Paul. I'm so grateful I met Paul at a NAWS conference, North American Wardens Association conference in Florida, and he had mentioned that he's a board member of Planting Justice, and a community organization in Oakland. And I'm like, hey, I'm from Oakland. He's like, it's in Sobrani Park. I'm like, hey, I'm from Sobrani Park. So so grateful to see the work personally when I go home. I still have family and friends still in the neighborhood. So thanks again. And you guys have any questions for Gavin about the important work that they're doing at PJ? And while I'm waiting on some questions in the chat, have there been other states or other municipalities that have reached out and said, hey, how can we model what you're doing in Oakland or in the Bay Area? How can we do that in our community?
Definitely. Yeah. And it's my long-term goal. Like, we know that, we stand on the shoulders of the folks who came before us. And we're hoping that we can create a model that is scalable and replicable for other organizations that want to do similar work. So many organizations are on that kind of rat race of foundation dependence and grant cycles, we're investing all the grant money that we get, all the major donations that we get into land and capital infrastructure for projects that generate their own revenue so that we can make all the mistakes that we need to make, get those, those models and those manuals down and be able to share them out with other people. So our nursery and our aquaponics farm are programs that we're hoping to help other organizations adopt if they are interested. And that's kind of our long-term goal over the next few decades. I'll be in this work hopefully the rest of my life. And we're trying to create a model at Planting Justice that can support itself so that it can survive way beyond me and be a 100-year-old organization. And I meet with a lot of orgs that are doing food justice work or urban ag or reentry who are really struggling on that grant dependence, and diversifying our revenue and creating a model for other orgs to be able to do that too is something that we do hope to share out with folks. Okay.
I have a question in relates to, can you talk a little bit about rematriation? I hope I'm saying this right.
Rematriation.
Yes, there you go. On the nurseries, the land.
Sure, definitely. Yeah, we're partnering with an indigenous land trust called Segorite Land Trust. Ohlone folks are native people in the Bay Area. They're not federally recognized. There's no land base for Ohlone people. So when we became landowners, Planting Justice did, and we bought this 2-acre nursery, we started partnering with Segorite Land Trust, and we're actually putting that 2 acres into their land trust, and they're giving us permission to continue operating our educational center nursery on that site. And it's been incredibly powerful for our staff and our community. It's this amazing mashup of life experiences, backgrounds that's happening there. It's a really special place. If anyone's ever in the Bay Area, wants to come see, you just Google Planting Justice, our address comes up. We're open Monday through Saturday. You got to come look, because what Segorite Land Trust has done is built a sacred site there. And when indigenous leaders come to visit the Bay Area from all around the world, they will often come to our nursery to meet with Karina, the chairperson of the tribe, and, sort of as the protocol, sort of ask permission to be in their tribal territory. And so we get visits by, Amazonian leaders and, people all over the world who are coming to our nursery. And that's a really amazing experience for our staff.
Okay. Quick question. Do we have beehives on the nursery?
We do have beehives on the farm. So people get experience beekeeping and harvesting.
Okay. And where and how do you sell your produce?
We have a mobile farmers market truck, and we started a farmers market. So we have a weekly farmers market on Sundays. There's actually 18 vendors who are there. And what I'm really excited about is, we're trying to create shelf-stable products that we can ship around the country. I didn't mention, but our nursery ships fruit trees all over the country. So we ship to 48 states, plantingjustice.org/shop. And we have 1,500 varieties of perennial plants. So it's actually one of the largest collections of perennial plants in the on the continent. There's 1,500 varieties of fruit trees. And so on that website, thanks, Paul. On that website, in addition to buying trees, people can try jams and dried fruits and other value-added products. And so our commercial kitchen space at the Good Table is under construction right now, and will be open early mid next year. And we'll be able to make those value-added products. We'll have a cafe there. So a lot of our food will come through there, and then on the farmers market truck and for sale online.
Okay, yeah. So there, there's a lot of talk about nutritional value in fruits and veggies. So one of the questions is, have we done any work in terms of getting some, research-based science information about the nutrition information or any data? Because there's some misunderstanding about the quality of fruits and veggies.
Yeah, I'm excited about our partnership with UC Davis, because they're helping us to design and implement the aquaponics farm, and we're doing aquaponics because our land is contaminated. As most of our land in East and West Oakland are, and many cities, industrial cities across the country. So, and what UC Davis is going to do is help us do nutritional studies on the quality of the produce that we sell. So I'm really excited about that. But also our taste buds are an amazing data point as well too. There's been a lot of studies that have shown, fruit and vegetables that taste good and not bland or watery, often much more highly nutritious as well.
Okay. Does there any restaurants that support the organization?
No, we're starting the cafe, and yeah, we haven't sold to restaurants before.
Okay. And from a staffing standpoint, how do you select the returning citizens that work for the organization?
Yeah, so we began by working inside San Quentin and having most of our staff be people paroling from the medium security unit and the H unit at San Quentin. And then as we became more centered and based in Sobrani Park, we didn't have to look very hard to find folks who were formerly incarcerated. And so what started happening was people just started coming to us. We gave people jobs, and tried people who were interested in working, and those that loved it and stayed ended up bringing their loved ones there, their neighbors, their families, their friends. And so a lot of our way of hiring folks, we don't put out job descriptions online and have people have that technology access applying. It's really like street references and street outreach and folks coming to us who are formerly incarcerated just from the community.
Yeah, and to add to that, being from there, it's a very family-oriented, multi-generational community. So the word of mouth, and again, because like you said, it's one way in and one way out. The community was built in the 50s to help the war efforts, because a lot of folks moved to California from the southern states to work in some of the manual labor type jobs to help the war effort. And so yeah, it's very community oriented. So it helps with in terms of getting folks to come there to work after being incarcerated. And then lastly, real quickly, what were the first steps that you took? Your first foundational steps to get this started when you had that vision, because that was one question that was asked.
No, I have a background in like community organizing, and so our first step was actually just knocking on doors. And this is sort of before COVID, when maybe that was like more acceptable. Maybe it was never acceptable, but it was always fun to just be like, here we are. This is our community. This is what we're doing. Here's how you can get involved. So we just started canvassing, and we just started knocking on doors, meeting people in the community, letting them know about our educational programs at the schools and our work at San Quentin, building gardens. And people would just hire us to build gardens for them. They would become monthly sustainers, giving $5 a month, $10, $20 a month to support the work. And that's how we were able to build gardens for folks who couldn't afford to pay for them.
Thanks. There was a couple more questions in chat. I don't know if you have time to go and look in there and maybe answer those.
Okay.
So now, thanks again, Gavin, for a great presentation.